beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Andrea, in case you are new. Today I'm going to be sharing with you baby names that I love but will not be using. So these are names that I have fallen in love with over the years or since I got pregnant, but will not be using either due to the gender or we just decided not to use them. This video is also in collaboration with my beautiful friend, Julianne. Her channel is XOXO Julianne. I will have her video and her channel linked in the description box down below. She is currently pregnant as well, and she is Team Green. So they do not know what they're going to be having until they have their baby, which is kind of exciting. She's going to be sharing with you her list of names that she loves, but also is not going to be using. She has 2 kids already. She has a little girl and a little boy, and their names are James and Haley. And as you guys know, I have a 3-year-old little boy named Manny. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into these names. Okay, so again, if you guys don't know, if you are new here, I'm currently pregnant with twin girls. So we had to pick out 2 girl names, which we are still like kind of on the fence about. They're not 100% etched in stone, but we think we pretty much have the first names at least narrowed down. And of course, you know, this is just typical. I had several boy names picked out before I knew I was having girls, but I did have a list of girl names picked out from when I was pregnant with Manny, because I really thought I was having a girl when I was pregnant with him. So a lot of these names are from that list. And then there are also a few names that I added when we were trying to figure out names for these little girls that either we just didn't agree on or we loved, but they just didn't fit the vibe that we were going for. So right off the top, I like unusual names. I like vintage names. I like earthy, kind of like naturistic names. So a lot of the names on this list are going to be as such. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and share the boys' names first because that's how I have it listed on my phone. Okay, so the first boy name that I love but will not be using is Maverick. So this was my #1 boy name. If I was gonna have a boy, I was gonna name him Maverick Charles, which Charles would be after my grandfather and my cousin. And I just love the name Maverick. I almost named Manny Maverick, but we wanted to use Manuel because it was a family name. So we named him Manny instead. But I have always, since I heard this name and since it has become more popular over the last few years, I have like fallen in love with the name Maverick. So if I ever did, by some random whatever oops situation, have a boy in the future after I'm done after this, but if it was to happen, his name would be Maverick Charles. Which is funny because I have a friend here on YouTube named Jenna. Her channel is Mega Mom, and her son's name is Maverick Charles, and I did not know that. I knew his name was Maverick, but I did not know his middle name was Charles. So we would have had the same name baby, which I think is hilarious. But Maverick is an American name, and it means independent one, which honestly would have been perfect for Manny, but I love Manny's name. I love the originality of it, and I love that no one, I mean, I know like one other person, maybe 2 other people that have that name ever. So I love that. I love really original names. But that was definitely my #1 boy name. #2 is Kellan. So I love the name Kellan. It is an Irish origin. It is of Irish origin, and it means bright, mighty warrior, and powerful, which I love. I love Irish names. We have Irish in our family, and I just love the name Kellan, so it was #2 on my list for a boy name. #3 is Holden. It is of English origin, and it means from the hollow in the valley. And I actually heard this name, I think technically the first time I heard it was on like a soap opera or something. But then there was a show that came out a couple years ago called Mindhunter, and the guy, like the lead character, or one of the lead, I guess he is the lead character, I think his name was Holden. His name was Holden, and I was like, oh, I really like that name, so I put it on my list. Number 4 on my list is Addison. Now, I know that that is typically a girl's name, or people would consider it a girl's name, but it is actually an Old English name, and it means the son of Adam. I went to high school with a kid named Addison, and ever since then, I've always liked that name for a boy. When I was just going down the list of names that I liked, I put that one on the list, and I just thought it was really cute. It's different. Like I said, it's typically most of the Addisons that I know are girls, and then they go by Addie. But again, I think it's interchangeable, and you could call a boy Addie as well, and I just really like the name. Number 5 is Quentin. So this was a high contender for these babies as well, or this baby, when I thought it was 1, and then when I found out it was 2 and didn't know the genders yet, Quentin was definitely top 3 for a name for the babies. It is of French origin, and it means the 5th, and it's derived from a Latin name, or it's derived from the Latin name Quentinus. So I like Quentin. I feel like it's not super popular, and it's not, like, I haven't heard it a ton, but I've heard it, you know, a few times. Obviously Quentin Tarantino. But aside from that, like, I don't really know. There's a YouTuber that I watch. Her son's name is Quentin. Yeah. And I just think it's a really unique original name, and I like names that start with like Q and Z, which are like very obscure, I feel like. So that is why I put it on my list. Number 6 for a boy is Wyatt. It is an English name meaning brave in battle. That's another kind of like old name that I feel like used to be really popular and is now kind of making a comeback. And I don't know, I just really like the name Wyatt. That was a top contender as well. Like I said, there was like 3 names that I really liked when I found out I was having twins, and I was like, Maverick, Quentin, or Wyatt are gonna be these babies' names, but they're girls, so I didn't end up using them, obviously, but I really like the name Wyatt. Number 7 is Jameson, which means son of James, and it originated in Scotland. Again, it's like an older name, kind of a vintage name, and it is of Scottish origin, which I love Ireland and Scotland, if you did not know that about me. And I feel like that's another name that you don't commonly hear, like Jameson, like you hear Jamie or James, but like Jameson is just not common, and I love that. I love really original names. Number 8 is Watson. There is a girl from Teen Mom, you guys probably know, Chelsea Huska, I think that's her last name, which she's DeBoer now because she got married, but they have a little boy and his name is Watson, and ever since I heard that name I was like, that is so freaking cute. It's very classic, I feel like, and it also originated in England or Scotland, and it means ruler of the army, so I thought that was a super cute name as well. Number 9 is Abel, which is a biblical name. It's got Hebrew origin, and it means breathe, and I'm gonna like put myself out there right now. Don't make fun of me, but I used to love the show Sons of Anarchy, and Jax named his son Abel, and I've just always liked that name since then, and it's definitely one that you do not hear often at all. And I don't know, I just like the simplicity of it. I like that it's an old name. I like that it's a biblical name, and I put it on my list. And last but certainly not least, number 10 on the boys' names that I like but will not be using is Zebulon. Yes, Zebulon. So this is a Hebrew name as well. It means little dwelling, which I don't know, I guess like a small house, I don't know. But I just like the name Zebulon, and I think it would be cute to like call them Zeb for short. I actually went to middle school with a kid named Zebulon, And I had forgotten about it, like the name, until recently when I started shopping at Trader Joe's. There is a guy that works there and his name is Zebulon. And we got into a whole discussion about his name and like where his parents got it from and just how original it was and how he didn't like to be called Zeb. But I think Zeb is cute for like a nickname, especially for kids, because you know you always like shorten your kids' names. Well, a lot of people do, I guess not everyone does, but and I was just like, I really like that name. It's a Z name, which is like very different, very original, even though it is like an older name, because it's of like Hebrew origin. I don't know, I just really like the name Zebulon. That wraps up my 10 boy names that I like and will not be using. So now let's go ahead and dive into the girls. So the first name on my girls list, which is the name that Manny was going to be named if he was a girl, is Aria. And Aria is actually a family name for me. My great grandmother's name was Aria, and it means lioness, and it is of Greek origin, which is super cool. And there's like, I guess, I don't know, I've never watched Game of Thrones, but there's a character on that show, her name's Aria, but she spells it with a Y instead of an I, which I think is really cool. I like changing the I and the Y out, if it makes sense, you know, to do so. So I really like that name. But I feel like now, even though it's only been 3 years since Manny has been born, I feel like a lot of people have that name. Like a lot of girls, a lot of parents have named their daughters that. And it just didn't have the same meaning for me anymore. So I was like, nah, I don't think I'm going to be using that. But it's still one that I like. We're just not going to be using it. The second name on my girl list is Blake. So I know, again, Blake is a traditional boy's name, I guess you could say. But Blake Lively, hello. I love that name. I've loved that name for a long time. It's just different when it comes to a girl. I don't know anyone named Blake aside from Blake Lively. And it means bright or shining. And it's of British descent. And I don't know, it's just different. It's not really like vintage or like earthy. It's not really vintage or earthy like I claimed to love in the beginning. I mean, I guess it is kind of earthy because it means bright or shining, which could be like a star or something like that. But I don't know, I just really like the name, so I put it on my list. Okay, number 3. Now this name is the name that I wanted to name one of the twins, but unfortunately this was one that Matt just put his foot down about, which is kind of sad, but we kind of had a deal, you know, if we didn't at least somewhat agree on the names, then we weren't going to use them. So number 3 on my list is Mavis. So Mavis is of French origin and it means songbird. It is a very old, classic, vintage name, and I just love it. I just think it just sounds cool. And I was like thinking in my head, if I have a boy and a girl, it would be Maverick and Mavis and Manny. So they would all have M names because I wanted to be that person who named all my babies with M names. But now we're not doing that, so it doesn't matter. But I do love the name Mavis and would love to use it, but unfortunately I won't be, just because Matt does not like it at all. So it got removed pretty quick off the list of the potential baby names. Okay, number 4 is Hazel. And I actually had a great aunt. So my grandfather, who I was going to name the middle name of the boy, potentially after, his sister's name was Hazel. And I really like the name Hazel, but again, it's one of those names where I know a lot of people who have named their kid that. So it wasn't one that I wanted to use, but I do love it. And it is of English origin and it means the hazelnut tree. So hazelnut, duh, obviously, Hazel. And I just think it's such a classic vintage name and it's just really pretty and feminine, but we will not be using it. Number 5 is Mabel. Another vintage classic type name. My mom used to work for this lady named Mabel and she was the sweetest woman. She is still alive, but We haven't seen her in a long time, but she is the sweetest lady, and I just really love that name. And it is actually of Latin origin, and it means lovable. And that woman, that was her. She's very lovable. Just would give you the shirt off her back. Just the sweetest lady in the world. So I really like the name Mabel. Number 6 on my list of girl names that I love but won't be using is Daphne. I know what you're thinking, Scooby-Doo, but Daphne is actually a Greek name. So it's been around a lot longer than Scooby-Doo, and it means laurel tree or bay tree. And to me, it's just like a very like a vintage, earthy kind of name, which I love. And I literally don't know anyone named Daphne aside from Daphne from Scooby-Doo. So that's why I put it on my list, because I love it. Number 7 is B. So B-E-A, which is short for Beatrix. Beatrix. And it means bringer of joy, and it is of English origin as well. Another classic name. I guess like some of these names could be like old lady names. I love that. I love like that vintage, like classic old lady name, I guess. The reason why we chose not to use this one, we were actually thinking of it as a middle name, but Matt has a friend who his daughter's name is B, even though they don't even live here. It's just sometimes, depending on the situation, I think if you've had a name in your heart and you knew from the time you got pregnant or the last time you got pregnant or whatever the case is, like, I love this name and I want to name my baby this name, I say do it. Don't care what anyone else thinks. But for the names where you're just like kind of on the fence and you're like, I don't know, do I like it? Do I want to name my kid that? And you know somebody who has a kid already named that, like for me, it's just like, nah, kind of takes the appeal away a little bit. But if it was like I was gung-ho, die-hard fan of the name, then I would use it, obviously, because at the end of the day, who cares what anyone else thinks? It's your kid and it's your life, and you might not even know these people in 10 years. So, but with that one, we were just like, like I like it, not sold on it, and we just decided not to use it. But I do love the name and wanted to share it on my list. Okay, number 8 is Dahlia. So this name is Swedish and Scandinavian, and it means valley. Like the meaning behind it is valley. And it's just such a pretty, soft, feminine name. It's also a flower, which I love. Dahlia flowers are so pretty. And it's original. I don't know anyone else with that name. And I love it, but it's just not a name that we chose to use. But I wanted to include it on my list, obviously, because here we are. Okay, number 9. This was a top contender for me for a name and a middle name, but it kind of got shooed off the list. Not for any reason, but it just didn't click with the names that we had picked out for a middle or a first name. But number 9 is Luna. So, of course, Harry Potter fan, Luna Lovegood. Love that name, love that character. And it is a Latin name, and it's the word for moon, obviously. And it is the Roman goddess of the moon. So love all of that. Love all of those things. All of those details made me love that name even more. And it's an original name. It's an earthy name. It's kind of hippie. But again, it just didn't flow with what we kind of have already picked out. So it got bumped to the list. Last but not least, and it's kind of funny because I ended the boy list on a Z, and I'm ending the girl list on a Z, but the name Zelda. So Zelda is of German origin, and it means gray fighting maid or strong fighter. And of course, if you know the video game Zelda, you've heard the name. If you've watched Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Aunt Zelda, you know the name. So it is a name that's out there, but it's not super popular. I do have a friend named Brittany whose daughter's name is Zelda. That's really the first like person I know that has that name. But I just think it's really original and really fun. And honestly, it would be perfect for our family just because Matt and Manny both love Zelda, the game, and Link and all that. But again, it didn't quite flow with what we already had picked out. So unfortunately, it got bumped to the list of names that I love but will not be using. Okay, so that concludes my girl list and concludes all the baby names that I love and won't be using. I hope this list is helpful for you guys if you're kind of stumped on what to name your kid, if you're looking for something unique, something original, something earthy, something vintage, something kind of hippie. I feel like this list definitely brought all of those aspects to the table. I'm really excited to hear what my friend Julianne has on her list because we didn't swap lists, so we may have some of the same names. Probably not though, but we might. But I'm very like curious to see what names she has on her list as well. And if you don't like my names, check out her video because I'm sure she'll have some different options on there as well. But thank you guys so much for hanging out and for watching today. If you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for being my kind of weird. Bye.